Look, ladies, I know this isn't fair, but we're all always running against the worst cliche of who people think we are. Women Democrats can't look oversensitive or preachy or unable to laugh at themselves. They also can't look silly, like Gretchen Whitmer did, trying to hide in the Oval Office. They have to look brave and strong. It wasn't a good look for the woman party that all the guys were speaking out for Jimmy Kimmel when Trump went after him, except on the Woman Show, where for 5 days the outspoken hosts were suddenly as quiet as a...
Bill Maher didn't just stop at diagnosing the problem. He dug deeper into the cultural undercurrents shaping modern political discourse, especially within the Democratic Party. He argued that what we're seeing isn't just a difference in policy, but a fundamental shift in mindset, where politics is no longer about persuasion, but about performance. He claimed that for some progressive leaders, especially women who position themselves as voices of the new left, politics has become less about solving problems and more about staking moral superiority over opponents, including members of their own party. Maher pointed out that this has led to a kind of intellectual and cultural elitism, where anyone who questions the narrative, even slightly, is shamed, canceled, or accused of betraying the cause. He criticized the tendency to shame voters who don't fall in line, rather than understand where they're coming from. In his view, that is not how democracy works. In a democracy, you don't get to call people evil just because they don't agree with you on every issue. You meet them halfway. You explain. You persuade. And most importantly, you listen. He warned that this failure to engage respectfully with dissenting voices isn't just toxic, it's politically suicidal. He questioned how the Democratic Party expects to win over swing states and moderate voters if it can't tolerate even moderate voices within its own ranks. According to Maher, when politics becomes a purity contest, it inevitably alienates the very people needed to build a winning coalition. Bill Maher also drew attention to the media echo chamber many Democratic leaders now inhabit. He argued that a significant number of these political figures live in insulated bubbles, constantly surrounded by aides, media personalities, and Twitter activists who all reinforce the same worldview. This creates an illusion of consensus, a false sense of support that collapses the moment they step outside of their contrail.
Ways America continues to divide itself. Nowhere is it more pronounced than in gender, and until the Democrats come to grips with that, they won't have much success winning elections. Let's just put it out there. Women are the Democrats' base, and men who get hit in the head for a living are Trump. They're the bro party, the party of car shows on the White House lawn and breaking shit and seeing what happens and busting. It's been that way for a long time. The mommy party and the daddy party, the party of pussy hats and the party of
environments, and into a town hall in rural Pennsylvania or a diner in suburban Michigan. It's in those moments, Maher said, where reality crashes in, when the slogans fall flat, the talking points feel hollow, and the average American voter just wants to know how you're going to help them pay rent. One of the most powerful undercurrents in Maher's critique was the idea of accountability. He challenged the notion that Democratic women leaders should be immune to criticism simply because they represent historically marginalized groups. He stressed that while representation absolutely matters, it doesn't give anyone a free pass. Competence, results, and strategic thinking still count. You can't lead effectively if your leadership is above reproach. In Maher's words, progress isn't made by surrounding yourself with applause. It's made by engaging with disagreement, learning from it, and adjusting course when needed. Maher also zeroed in on the generational divide within the party. He observed how younger progressive women in politics often come from academic environments where radical theories and identity-first frameworks dominate the conversation. While these ideas may have intellectual merit, he argued, they often collapse under the weight of real-world complexity. What works in a gender studies seminar doesn't always work in a state budget negotiation. And when leaders try to force these rigid ideological frameworks into places where flexibility and compromise are needed, they don't look principled, they look ineffective. He wasn't mocking education or feminism or activism. In fact, he acknowledged that many of these women entered politics for all the right reasons: to serve, to fight for justice, to challenge systems that have historically excluded people. But Maher made the case that good intentions aren't enough. You still have to win. You still have to govern. And you still have to speak in a way that people, especially people outside your cultural bubble.
Divide is on steroids now and getting worse. In the 24 election, young men preferred Trump by 2 points, and young women, Kamala, by 24. The only way Trump can appeal to women 18 to 39 is making him one of his lawyers. Men and women can barely date anymore because they can't stomach each other's politics. That's why everyone is gay now. We're just done with each other. If you don't believe me, ask yourself, what podcasts do I listen to? Trump bros have 50,000 of them about politics and protein powder. While in the woman's sphere, the podcasts are all about balancing career and mother.
He asked, what's the point of being right on the issues if you lose every major election? What's the point of championing moral causes if your strategy keeps the very people you're fighting for out of power? If you can't connect, you can't win. And if you can't win, your values remain ideas, not laws. Maher called this the activist's trap, believing that volume equals value, that outrage equals strategy. It doesn't. It never has. He reminded the audience that there is a vast difference between activism and governance. Activism is meant to push the envelope, to disrupt. Governance, however, is about compromise, negotiation, and execution. They are not enemies, but they are not the same. And when politicians blur those lines, when they treat the Senate floor like a protest rally or a campaign like a virtue signaling seminar, they risk turning off the very voters who determine the outcome. Finally, Maher issued a sober challenge. If Democrats want to remain relevant, if they want to beat Trumpism, protect democracy, and advance progressive goals, they need to come back to earth. They need to reconnect with ordinary people, not just activists and influencers. They need to focus less on theoretical oppression and more on tangible opportunity. And they need to speak plainly, act boldly, and remember that most Americans aren't extremists. They're just exhausted, stressed, and trying to survive. In his closing remarks, he made it clear this wasn't an attack. It was a warning. A wake-up call to a party he still supports, but fears is losing its way. Maher urged Democratic women and all Democratic leaders to step outside the echo chamber, put down the hashtags, and get serious about winning again. Because the stakes are too high and the voters too smart for empty slogans to carry the day.